Hello, Jenny here, co-founder of Naughty Nutrition, and I have to let you guys in on a little secret. I have a compromised gut. So I've always had gut issues. They were being managed through diet and lifestyle, but around the time that my daughter hit 18 months, or I was about 18 months postpartum, my gut symptoms got out of control. I had to visit the doctor. I lost a load of weight. I had to get an MRI. I had extreme gut pain. I was having a really hard time functioning. So naturally, I reached for what I learned in school as a nutritionist, and that was a gut healing protocol. So when you do a gut healing protocol, it includes things like reducing gluten or removing gluten, reducing dairy or removing dairy, reducing sugar or removing sugar, no processed foods, limiting your animal protein, and doing things like high fiber. And the holy grail of gut healing protocol suggestions is fermented foods. So I started loading up on my fermented food intake. I was eating kimchi, sauerkraut, I was drinking kombucha, I was eating tamari, tempeh, miso. I was doing it all, and I was doing it throughout my entire day. And guess what happened? Nothing. Nothing changed, and actually my symptoms got worse. So I started tracking my food intake with the Food Mood Journal, which you can download on our website, and I started noticing a pattern. The times that I wasn't eating fermented foods, I actually felt better. And I thought to myself, why could this be? So naturally I started to do some digging. It turns out the consumption of some of these fermented foods was actually fueling the fire in my gut. So the reason for this is that certain fermented foods can not only grow one type of bacteria that is helpful for your gut, but it can also grow other types of bacteria. And the thing about our guts is that they are host to so many different types of bacteria that we really need to focus on the healthy bacteria growing and crowd out the bad bacteria. But if you're getting something like kombucha, which has a SCOBY, and a SCOBY just means a symbiotic colony of bacteria and yeast, you might not only be getting the good bacteria from that SCOBY, but you're getting the bad bacteria as well. So if you have something like candida or a small intestinal bacteria overgrowth, the SCOBY that's hosting multiple diversities of bacteria is not only going to be feeding the good bacteria, but it's also going to be feeding the bad bacteria in your gut. Who would have thought that after all of these years and all of the things that I had learned, that the fermented foods I was eating was actually doing more damage to my gut than it was doing good? But the question remains, should you be removing all fermented foods if you have issues with your gut? The simple answer is no. There's definitely a difference between the types of bacteria that grow in different fermented foods. You have a different variety of fermented foods. So it's all about the type of diversity that's growing in that fermented food and how it affects your personal intestinal system. Our intestinal systems are all individual and all multi-diverse, so it's really hard to tell what type of bacteria is going to be crowding out the bad bacteria. So Chris Kesser mentions that many therapies would recommend you avoiding all fermented foods if you do have small intestinal bacteria overgrowth or if you have candida or yeast overgrowth in your system, but they also recommend that you would take a multi-strain high-dose probiotic, which means we should be examining the person on an individual level and seeing what their own tolerance is to ferments and their own tolerance is to probiotics, and then coming up with a diet plan that adapts to their own diversity. So what can we do today in regards to fermented foods and gut health? Well, first things first, you can assess your diet and track your food using a Food Mood Journal and add in a little bit of fermented foods here and there and see how you feel. For example, if you have kimchi or sauerkraut for breakfast with your eggs, track that in your journal and see if later on in the day you're reacting to that. Another thing that you can do if you have a severely compromised gut is take an incredibly high dose multi-strain probiotic to help crowd out that bad bacteria. Try a reduction in gluten and grains and see how that makes you feel. Sometimes people who have severely compromised gut can react negatively to these types of foods. And also think about starting that gut healing process before you add in a large dose of fermented foods to your diet. Think about how you're going to increase the diversity of the healthy bacteria and decrease the diversity of the bad bacteria in your gut, and play around with the foods in your diet to see what foods you're reactive to. So that's that for today on fermented foods. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below, and make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and stay up to date on our gut health series, which is going to be run over the next couple of weeks. And if you have any questions, reach out to us and visit our website, naughtynutrition.co.